you the quantum mechanics?
Yes, we're the Quantum Mechanics. We're the paranormal podcast for the believers, the doubters, and everyone in between.
Nice to see you,
You're looking quite confused by that, Ben.
I think I might know what this is about. Go on.
Well, this was about a story that I was reading about this week, which made me giggle. So it is that Bruce Forsyth, his ghost is stalking the London Palladium, telling guests...
Nice to see you,
which is followed by the words, it is claimed.
They're doing a lot of heavy lifting because his ashes are underneath the stage, I think.
Yes, which I never knew. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. No.
Well, this comes from somebody we've mentioned on the podcast before, singer and paranormal expert, Brocardi. Yeah. Do you remember I
have one of those every morning for my vitamins.
She did a music video about her marrying her ghost.
Oh, yes, I do remember this.
And I mean, I'm one of those people who kind of goes, well, you know, music... We're normally objective about most things, but when it comes to music, I am pretty hardcore on my beliefs of it. And I have to say, her music video was one of the worst things I've ever seen. But yeah, she is claiming that while at the London Palladium doing some kind of investigation, Bruce Forsyth was in her ear going,
nice to see you,
and laughing. But she's the only one who seems to have heard it or believes it's true.
Quick guide for American listeners. He was a TV legend. That was his catchphrase.
Yes, it was indeed. So yes, that just amused me, that story. I'm not sure I believe a word of it, but I think the bit I took away from it is quite sweet that Bruce Forsyth's ashes are scattered underneath the stage at the London Palladium.
Yeah.
What a lovely thing.
No, that is nice. And it's nice that he's still performing. But it must be a bit frustrating for him. Like, if that's the only thing that he can do, he's sort of welcoming people in and then he can't do the rest of his act.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't, although I can imagine if his ghost is haunting the Palladium, that's a good catchphrase to use if you want to freak somebody out as a ghost, don't you think?
I think so. I was trying to think of, like, maybe who would also have a good catchphrase? To you, to me.
Yeah.
Maybe the Chuckle Brothers, that would be a good one.
Yeah. All right at the back.
And of course, I'll be back. That's quite sinister.
Yeah, no, that's not so good. I'll be back. But yes, so that's the story that amused me. I love that fact that he basically, as a paranormal investigator or as some level of psychic, you can basically say whatever you want, and if you get the story right, it will get printed. Because that one was in The Sun, The Mirror, everywhere, that story.
I saw it in The Mirror, yeah.
There you go.
Well, that is not a segue into what I'm talking about, but we are staying firmly in the UK because tonight we're talking about, or this morning, we're talking about the British Wood Ape.
Ah, okay.
So you did an episode about the Yeti, the Bigfoot. This is Britain's version of it. And there is, in fact, a British Bigfoot Research Association. I didn't realise that. But there's been so much in the news recently. There's some new, are they researchers? I don't know. But people on TikTok have been picking up on the Wood Ape sort of, I said, not scare, but the renewed sightings. So I thought I'll just go through this. And also, Nick Redfern wrote a book about this about 5 years ago. So I'm sort of starting with some of his stories and then expanding out. But it all really starts, this legend, if you want to call it that, starts in January 1879 alongside the Shropshire Union Canal. And it's a labourer. He's tired after a hard day's work. And it's freezing cold. It gets like that in the UK. And he says he's observing his horse's breath pluming in the freezing air ahead of him.
He's a poet as well as a labourer.
The only sounds are the clip-clop of the hooves and the creak of the cart. But when he gets to Bridge 39, something really strange happens. Out of the blackness of a copse of trees, something launches itself towards them. The man sees a strange black creature with great white eyes. It lands on the horse's back. He cracks the whip, and he says his blood turned cold because the whip passes straight through the creature as if it's smoke.
Wow.
The horse, who's maddened with fear, bolts. He holds on, and it all is fine. He doesn't crash. But when he finally gets to the safety of Woodsea's village, his story is not met with disbelief, but with familiarity. A local policeman informs him that he has just met the man-monkey, a spectre, and in this case it is a spectre rather than a cryptid, but that, it comes in various forms. Apparently it's tied to a tragic drowning in the canal, and this creature haunts the bridge from this particular vantage point at Bridge 39. So...
Interesting, it's manifesting as a ghostly ape, though.
Yeah, it is. And this has some mirrors of... So before I came here, I was just watching some random YouTube videos, and there's actually Casper Site covered it. It's not exactly the same, but he had a 999 call or a 911 call in the States from a truck driver who was passing through an old Civil War battlefield. He phones in 911 to report that he sees a blooded soldier at the side of the road, which is
what you'd expect.
Which is what you'd expect. So he didn't realise that he was phoning in a spectral apparition, but while he's phoning it in, something jumps into the bed of his truck in the back and starts banging on the roof, and you can hear this all on the 911 call.
Wow.
And he's freaked out, and he describes it as, he said it has a face like a human skull, but with skin sort of manually stretched across it, not as it would normally be. And so that is a good case of perhaps a haunted location, but attracting some kind of weird cryptidness. In that case, that was a solid cryptid, but in this case, it appeared to be, as I said, like smoke. But it isn't always that way. Let's talk about another famous one, Shugborough Hall. Have you come across Shugborough Hall in Staffordshire?
That's easy for you to say.
Yeah. It's the seat of the Earls of Lichfield.
It does ring a bell to me. And we may have mentioned it on the podcast before.
I think we may have done.
May have, yeah.
But if you imagine manicured lawns, tranquil gardens, aristocracy, it's that sort of place. It also has, and I'm going to talk about this in the extra scoop, the Shepherd's Monument, which some believe contains a secret code pointing to the location of the Holy Grail. But that is something we will come on to later, because what I want to talk about is what the groundsman saw. One evening after the sun had set and the last tourist had departed, he witnessed a blur of motion at the edge of his vision. He described seeing a large, hairy, man-like thing bounding at incredible speed across the lawn. He said it wasn't a man in a suit. It moved with unnatural power and agility, and it was heading directly for the winding waterways that cut through the Shugborough estate. The encounter only lasted seconds, but it culminated in a loud, distinct splash,
right,
as if the creature had launched itself into the water. So it's gone for a swim, basically.
Yeah, well, they do smell a bit, don't they? The Bigfoots.
Yeah. That's what we have been told from legend, like a really stinky, rotting meat smell.
Maybe this one's just very keen on his personal care.
Well, yes, maybe. Or he just likes to keep fit.
Yeah, true.
Either way, the terrified groundsman reported what he'd seen to his superiors. He was expecting shock and perhaps a call to the police, but instead he was warned off. He was told not to talk about what he'd seen, and apparently there were even veiled threats that his job wouldn't be safe if he did start talking about it.
Because they didn't want the association with
it was bad for tourist business, apparently.
Right.
So,
or good for tourist business.
Well, I would have thought it would have been good, but it turns out that the grounds do have a history of killings, ritualistic murders back in the long distant past.
Okay.
And there was this idea that perhaps this entity is associated with that. And so he was told, we deal with this stuff strictly in-house. No police are ever called. The only outside party, interestingly enough, was a local vet who reported examining examining dead waterfowl under a veil of secrecy and left without a public report. So he'd been called in to look at why all the birds were dying on this part of the stream.
By the estate.
Yeah. And he apparently he came, examined, and then never said another word about it.
I'd love to read that report, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. It's this idea. This is the first time that we really hear something so. I guess it isn't just seen out of the corner of someone's eye, remotely in a strange part of the countryside. This appears to be something that keeps coming back to one particular place and people don't want to talk about it.
It's interesting, though, isn't it? Because theories around Bigfoot do vary. I mean, there's a theory almost about it being a lost species. That's maybe a little bit more with the Yeti as well. But also there is that theory that it's connected with UFOs.
Yeah.
The British ones that you've mentioned so far, and maybe you're seeing a correlation between the reports, do seem to be more connected with more what we'd call traditional paranormal activity,
Yes.
a ghostly apparition or a backstory of murder. And these are all classic ghost story things rather than maybe the American Bigfoot stories.
Well, that is somewhat the case, although there's elements of high strangeness to this. So going back to Bridge 39 in the 1970s, so fast forwarding about 100 years, a truck driver who was passing over the bridge, his truck suddenly died. And in front of him, a hairy 5-foot-tall beast sprinted across the road exactly at the point of Bridge 39. After it had disappeared, the truck came back to life.
Right, okay. That's very UFO.
Yeah, exactly. This idea that it's somehow manipulating our technology is not necessarily associated with traditional cryptids, but that high strangeness does come with the American Bigfoots for sure. In more recent years, and I do love some of the work of Paul Sinclair, he brings you the Truth Proof series, which is both YouTube and books. And he has been going out in the north of Yorkshire collecting stories. There are some stories where it crosses over from just being a wood ape into other ideas of cryptids, and including Old Stinker. So we've spoken about Old Stinker with James.
Yeah.
So
we're not calling James Old Stinker.
No,
we just want
no.
to be clear. That's the werewolf, right?
He's an 8-foot-tall werewolf said to haunt the Barmston Drain area of Hull. And Paul found this account. So it's from the 1960s, and there's a lorry driver who saw a red pair of eyes in the mist. As he slows, he sees a massive wolf-like creature which lunges at him, trying to smash through the windscreen. And in 2016, this happens again. A woman saw an 8-foot beast with a German shepherd in its jaws. It then leapt effortlessly over an 8-foot fence.
I got a feeling, Ben, that Old Stinker, because when we've mentioned before, I think Old Stinker follows us on social media.
Oh, the account called.
He's got his own, he's got his own account. Yeah, so I'm loving the fact that he's moving with the times as well.
Yeah. Well, we're going to move on to a very, very detailed account in a moment, a first-person account. But just to talk about like what you were saying there, Paul Sinclair, he says alongside these, and he talks about the village of Flixton, which is historically known as Wolfland. I didn't know that. Yeah. He has captured lots and lots of accounts of people seeing UFOs, strange lights, experiencing disembodied voices, and encounters with all kinds of different entities. And he has this idea that places like Flixton, obviously Cannock Chase, the Yorkshire Wolds, are window areas. We've had this idea before, this sort of, there's a veil here, and these entities are sort of flickering through from another side, whatever that is.
And is that, I always get mixed up with this, is this like a portal, or is this like a ley lines thing, or are they the same thing? I don't know.
I think it's more these beings are, maybe they're transdimensional, and there's something about these areas where they can become forms in our reality, but they can't do it in other places. That's the theory. I mean, there is no more. There's no scientific evidence to explain that. Yeah. And also, just to bring it up to date and very relevant to us, October 24 in Cannock Chase. I can't believe we just missed this. A retired couple doing an evening walk near the German military cemetery. That's where we were.
Yeah.
Confronted by a creature covered in hair, standing upright and sprinting. Big yellow eyes, huge teeth, piercing howl, leapt a fence. So that, again, is more werewolfy than...
Is that in 2024?
Yeah.
Wow. How did we miss that?
I know. But in December 24 in Cambridge, the man monkey came back in 2 separate incidents. Witnesses reported a massive monkey thing, thanks for the description.
Yeah, very detailed.
And an ape-like creature running on all fours through the Arbury neighbourhood. So that's a residential area. It's not a remote canal or woodland. And in the South Downs, going back to April 24, there's a fisherman in the South Downs National Park. He reported a distinct feeling of being watched from the woods. And he had the sound and then the sight of a two-legged creature running through the woodland. And it was just on the tree line. So he was seeing flashes of something in there. But he claims he could tell it was bipedal.
Wow. I was just wondering whether, because a lot of these wooded areas now, they've launched that Go Ape thing, haven't they? Where they have, you know the ones
Yes.
where like kids or whatever can go up, and they're really good fun, and they're up in the trees and they can run along, and there's all nets and stuff. I wonder if there is a British version of Bigfoot living in the woods, whether he thinks, well, they've just created a lovely habitat for me. Do you think they, at night when no one's around, they're just on there? That's a good place to watch out, isn't it?
Well, it's like Tarzan swings and elevated rope bridges and stuff. I mean, I suppose if you were going to keep a wood ape happy, that would be something.
It's going to be like their equivalent of Disneyland, isn't it?
It's quite expensive to go on.
Yeah, well, not for the ape.
You
wouldn't try and get some money out of it, would you? If you saw it up there,
no. But I mean, this idea of these creatures being transdimensional and...
Sorry, I've just been wanting to press that button for a while.
I've said transdimensional too often.
Bingo!
Sorry, I've knocked you off your perch there, haven't I?
keep going. It's fine. Professional. I'll keep going through this. You can't tell whether they are going to be physical creatures that we just have not spotted. This is, of course, the long problem with these. Is it something that lives in our countryside that we just don't know and we've missed it all this time, or it's coming from another place? It seems unlikely that we've missed it all this time.
Yeah.
But also dogs seem to play a role in this, and they don't always come out of it well. But this is a story that was uncovered by Deborah Hatswell from BBR Investigations. She's done her own in-depth investigation into this, and if you look her up, you will find that she's done a podcast on this, but there's also quite a lot of extensive research online which you can dig into, and that's what I'm deriving this work from, because it happens in the afternoon of a night in November in 2022, and it was never reported in the news, and it vanished from social media, and that is really important. It's a story of a man and his dog who walked into a small wood, and what came out was a complete mystery. So it happens in Springwood, which is near Brigstock in Northamptonshire, it's basically a small, well-known woodland. People use it to exercise their dogs. And the person we're talking about is a male in his 60s. He's an experienced shooting man, and he was a beater for a local pheasant shoot. His name is withheld, but the point about that is that he knows the wildlife, he knows the area very well. He knows what he's doing. At 2 o'clock, somewhere between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock on the Saturday.
Afternoon or morning?
Yeah, PM.
Yeah.
The subject enters Springwood with his trained gun dog to retrieve a single downed bird. It's a routine task. It's a small, familiar wood. It should take no more than 10 minutes. He doesn't return. Between 3:30 and 4, an initial search by a fellow shoot member is conducted. He finds the gate to an internal release pen, which is always kept shut, is wide open. The missing man, his dog, and the bird are nowhere to be found. So a release pen is in a place where people do sport hunting. The birds are kept in these pens, and when they are put back into the wild, as it were, these release pens act as a place where they can get food and shelter, because they're not, they don't know how to do that otherwise.
Not cheating.
Yeah, if you walk around the countryside around here, you'll bump into them. And
yeah, I've been on walks and you've come across them. It's quite a weird thing to come across.
It is weird.
Yeah.
It's like Jurassic Park because there's loads of birds.
Yeah.
At 5 o'clock, a more intensive search by the entire shooting party fails, and the police are called. Between 6 and 9 p.m, the police response is significant. At 6, they're treating it like a high-risk missing persons case. Family and Northamptonshire Police launch appeals on Facebook. By 9 o'clock, both posts are inexplicably removed. Witnesses report upwards of 30 officers present, and they secure the perimeter of the tiny wood. That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, that is weird.
Despite a massive police presence and a man missing in a central small wood as night falls, no police search of the wood is conducted overnight. The entire area, as I say, is cordoned off, but no officers are sent in to search. The remaining shoot members are instructed to stay on site, but are not allowed anywhere near the wood. At 11 a.m. on Sunday, 20 hours after the man went missing, paramedics are called to the scene. The man had been found. He was either deceased at that time or he died shortly afterwards in hospital.
Right. Any description of injury?
Oh, yes. Let's break down some of the things that were found. It is said that he was covered in lacerations. This is not an injury consistent with a heart attack, a stroke, or a fall, of course. A shooting accident would have triggered a major public investigation by the Health and Safety Executive and firearms licensing bodies. Yet there was zero news coverage about that, and neither of those bodies did investigate. In this small rural community, an unexplained death like this is kind of news, particularly as it is said that he had these strange marks on his body. Now, those strange marks are reported by anecdotes from the ambulance drivers.
Right.
Or the paramedics, I should say, not necessarily the driver, but the paramedics.
Yeah.
Not realising that they weren't supposed to talk about them. They were never allowed to talk on official record. This was just anecdotes told to other people and then reported back third hand. Approximately 3 weeks later and 15 miles away, the investigator found...
Paranormal investigator. Yeah.
She discovered large prints near his home or after a frost hardened the wet ground. So this is about 15 miles away, as I say, from the site. They measured 4.5 inches wide by 3 inches long, which is very, very broad for any sort of canid dog. Complete absence of claw marks. Dog prints, especially in soft ground, show distinct claw imprints. Cats have retractable claws, but the shape description didn't work for a panther or another big cat. The lack of claws on a dog-like print is a recurring feature in many of these dogmen and wood ape encounters, strangely, because they sometimes they appear to be, interchangeable.
Did you say this was in snow, though?
No, these were prints
mud.
Preserved. They were first in soft mud and then preserved in the frost that came overnight.
Okay.
That's why they're so examinable.
Yeah, because if it'd been snow, there is that phenomenon, isn't there, where the sun gets to it but if it's in mud, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the 27-inch distance between the prints indicates that's a big leg span. That's larger than any domestic dog.
Right.
That's something that is non-native we can't explain.
But so if I'm clear, just so I'm 100% clear, the guy went missing and was found 15 miles away from his home, but these prints were found at his home, or am I getting that wrong?
No, you're right. He went missing 15 miles away from his home in the wood.
And these prints
are found at his home.
Oh, okay. So that's weird. That, I've got like American Werewolf in London going through my head, and almost like stalking someone or, interesting, yeah.
The other strange thing about this is, and you might have been asking this, what happened to the dog?
Yeah.
So the fate and location of the dog was never reported. It would have been a priority to retrieve that dog back to the hunt, not just because people care about it, but also because they're very valuable.
Yeah.
And also the idea that this dog could have taken the people to the location of where its master had fallen would also be important. None of those things were followed up. Nobody knows about the fate of the dog. It never returned, but the body was never recovered.
Right.
So we've got a fully missing dog. We've got a man covered in lacerations who passed away. We've got no investigation by any of the forces or regulatory bodies that would be involved in a gunshot wounding. It does not appear to be a heart attack or anything like that. And we've got these strange paw prints around his house 15 miles away in the mud that happen. They appear to be there on the same night as this disappearance happened.
But it's also weirder than that, isn't it? Because the way you describe the police being there, cordoning off the area, it's almost as if the investigation was shut down as well, which you wouldn't expect in those circumstances, unless it was... Just trying to think of it from a more sceptical point of view, unless it was a search and then the body was found, so they could call off the search. But it sounds like the scene was shut down before the body was found, by the way you told the story.
It was.
Wow.
Yeah, the body wasn't recovered until the next morning. Now,
has there been any freedom of information or anything that the investigator did on this?
Yes, and there is nothing to be had. Really? That's the strange thing, yes. There is nothing to be had.
About the event at all?
About the event at all, no.
Right.
All we know is that he was deceased. We don't even know whether he died in the wood or in the ambulance.
But he definitely died.
Yes.
They found that out. There must be death records of that.
Yes, although this has been anonymised, so the actual person that died...
Yeah, so there's no way of... anybody outside of the person who's writing this story can check.
Well, obviously local reporters and stuff knew about it at the time, but it does make it remarkably difficult to check from my standpoint here.
Yeah.
So I'm having to rely on these accounts. But the thing that really is super strange about this is that this area around Springwood has a 20-year history of big cat sightings. Just before this death, a close encounter was reported in that wood. So... that involved somebody seeing what they described as, an alien big cat, not alien as in from outer space, but something that didn't belong here. So there is speculation that he was attacked by a big cat, and that is why there was a perimeter put around it. That is why the door to the bird sanctuary, the bird cage was open, because it was going in there to get its lunch.
And were birds... Well, you wouldn't know, would you, if birds were missing?
We don't know if the birds were missing. Yeah. No.
Are we saying that the dog may have been eaten?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
By an alien big cat.
Yeah. Well, you see, that is only one of the possibilities, because the footprint evidence gives... It's really strange, because even if you had something like a panther, those prints are big. But remember, I said the experts say that they don't look like big cat prints; they look like canid prints. So it would have to be a big dog.
Yeah.
But a big dog without toenails, without claws.
Yeah.
Which you don't get. Like when I was looking at this, I was seeing some pictures online. Really big dogs like Great Danes, their claw marks are very significant in the ground. I can see what this author is talking about. It's literally part of the print. And if you look, this is why it's important that they were preserved in the frost. If you look closely on a frosty morning on a dog walking area and look at the paw prints of the dogs that have been frozen there, you will see the pricks in the mud that come from
they're only
those.
called they're dog walkers, if you don't mind.
But we end up with two really strange possibilities. So one is an escaped or wild-born big cat that has turned to preying on humans, prompting some kind of, as Paul, who investigated this as well, Paul Sinclair said, like a Black Ops style cover-up because people don't want to be scared. And this is a farming community, it's a shooting community. It would cause havoc. But we still have this anomaly.
Are there any other reports of missing animals around that area?
That didn't come up in this.
Yeah.
But it does, the only other option really is that it's an actual cryptid.
Yeah.
So it might be a dog man. It might be. We don't know we don't really know what the paw prints of a dog ape of a man ape, a man monkey look like. You would think that they would look like human human footprints, but what if it's some kind of shape-shifting entity? And so there is because in these reports there's a real blur between what is being described as a dog man, what is being described as a werewolf, what is being described as a wood ape. Like, I've got an account earlier on, just go back through my notes. This is very interesting. There is a zoologist who says, a zoologist, he says that he found in 1982, he came face to face with what he called a chimera. So from the front, he said it looked like a powerful gorilla. In profile, as it fled, turned around, he said it had a long muzzle and flattened down ears like a dog. Right. And he was absolutely sure it wasn't a misidentified animal. He literally is a zoology student. Right. But he said it had this curious sort of ability to, he said for all the world it was a gorilla that was staring at him. Then it turns and no, it's got a big muzzle. So it's like a gorilla with a muzzle, and then you notice these flattened down dog ears. And then I was avoiding saying it because you kind of you pull yourself in the wrong direction. But there was somebody who tried to sketch what he did, and if you know the werewolf transformation in the Michael Jackson video, he said the ears were like that. That's what they look like.
Wow. There's a couple of things that I'm thinking of in relation to that, which are outside a kind of traditional cryptid explanation. I was thinking screen memory.
Yeah.
With the shapeshifter.
Yes. And Paul does go into that, yeah.
But I was also thinking, this guy is a zoologist. He maybe has an interest in this stuff. Almost tulpa-like. Could he have manifested this creature? Because I would have thought if you go with it, if you're a zoologist who's into this kind of stuff, the idea of a creature that is transforming from almost like a gorilla and face on to, like I said in that Michael Jackson video, I'm thinking of that classic scene in the first Howling movie where the snout is growing, and it's if you're into that stuff, that would be almost your dream, wouldn't it, to see that? So I wonder if there is some manifestation tulpa involved in this.
I think that is a very good thing to consider, because it feels as well that because as all of these things happen in very specific areas a lot of the time, there could be this idea of manifesting it by expectation. And I think that is something which hasn't been ignored by the researchers, but the evidence, particularly when you have dead people around, is so overwhelmingly physical that you do wonder what that could possibly be that has been manifested. Like, when I was looking at this, we've covered, another window area possibility. We spoke about the ghost World War II planes coming in over High Peak.
Yeah.
Now, not far away from High Peak is the Pennines. And across the Pennines, there have been reports of actual pterodactyls flying.
Really?
And not just one report. There is, in fact, I found two that happened on the same day, about 10 miles away from each other, over the Pennines. And this is back in the 90s. And they both described this large grey flying creature, which appears to be quite cumbersome and doesn't appear to be happy flying, but it has a huge wingspan. And they got close enough, both witnesses got close enough to see that it was skin stretched across the wing area, not feathers.
Right.
And that, I would have said, probably goes into the same category as, I know it sounds weird, but maybe as the ghost aeroplanes, because some sort of manifestation there caused by perhaps a window area, because they didn't have any physical interaction with these things. There was no noise, a little bit like the planes, there's no noise. That feels like a distinctly different kind of cryptid encounter than something that is this physical.
Sorry, we've got our own cryptid barking in the background. Brilliant. I was thinking, though, from a sceptical point of view, could it be somebody mistaking a hang glider? Or, we used to have a kite. It wasn't quite as big as the one you're describing that was a pterodactyl. So, you know what I mean? But it sounds like if you're saying they were close enough that they described it as having skin rather than feathers, you would know the difference, maybe. I think so. And they both think that it was a real animal. And one of the episodes that I'm still working on, because there's not many things that aren't just random stories, but somebody seeing a mammoth as well, that's happened. Right. But this idea of there being something that is dangerous to humans running around, and I don't think it feels the same exactly as the American Yeti, because looking at some of Deborah's accounts that she has gleaned over the years as sort of running this British Bigfoot Research Association, some of the encounters are almost fairy-like. So I was reading one where the person felt compelled to walk into the woods, and then they see this two-legged monkey creature scrabbling through the woods, and they couldn't move. They felt like they were glamorized in a way, and it wasn't being they were fearful, but they couldn't move, not through fear. They felt like there was a force at work on them, which was making them watch this creature, which eventually just walked off and disappeared. Right.
And then they were able to move again. That is very, very similar to a lot of the fairy cases we found, and in those cases, you've got all of these legends of, like, well, you can turn your clothes inside out and it'll free you from the spell. So it seems to have many different fingers in many different paranormal pies.
Yeah, no, it does seem to cover a whole range of them. I went too early with my bingo, didn't I? I could have saved it for a little bit later. But yeah, if we go back to the story of the person who was found dead, I can see why that would generate so much fear, because your description of him, almost like a gamekeeper who knew the woods, who knew the place really well, used to being out in wildlife, almost like if you were going to pick someone who was going to be involved in a death around this, it's almost like if you're going to do a narrative, let's say for a horror film, he's who you'd pick, wouldn't you? Rather than, somebody who ambles into the woods, who's come from London, who doesn't know anything about being out in the wilderness. It's where he does his work. It makes it even more chilling, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I think that's what makes it all the stranger as well, because he's surrounded not just by people who know what they're doing, but by the dogs as well, and also the regulation. Like if, like I said, I don't want to repeat myself, but if it had been a gunshot, there would have been no cover up, and that hunt could have been shot down. Why would you send 30 police officers to look for one man who's only been missing 4 hours?
And again, who is a expert in that environment. Yeah.
I
get it if it was a child or something who'd wandered off, you would, wouldn't you? But yeah, interesting. But that by definition, that would say that the authorities or people in charge of the investigation had some prior knowledge of something in that woods, wouldn't it? Because you wouldn't know you were dealing with something quote unquote paranormal when you're called out. It's almost like, oh my God, it's happened in the woods. That takes the whole conspiracy to another level, doesn't it?
This is the other reason. This is the other reason why it's so strange, because I think quite rightly, if 30 police officers had been told, there's a werewolf or there's some kind of paranormal activity there, or even if they'd been told there was an escaped panther, that story wouldn't have stayed buried. I think what is most likely to have happened, and this was speculated on again in the reports that I read, one police officer who's high up suspects something isn't quite right because they've heard reports like this before. They say to the others, okay, I need you to get down there. And when they start saying, well, why it's so weird for us, he's like, I just want to check. I want to check a hunch. I want to check an idea. It's something, it might be military related. And you just sow confusion, but you still deploy the officers.
I've also now got this thought that there might be a paranormal police division. That would be cool, wouldn't it? To be involved in that, the paranormal plot. Yeah,
well, that does fit into some of the other cases. We spoke about it before in the werewolf episode, but on the werewolf episode, we spoke about that case I'd come across from the US, where there was reports of a man who was running naked under a bridge.
Yeah.
And when the police officers came to find him, he was hiding in a bush, and they described him as being absolutely crazy, not acting like a human at all, and as I say, being completely naked. And they tried to capture him, and it was almost impossible. They had to use all the the netting and all of the weapons at their disposal to bring him down. He's still struggling and fighting. He actually defecates all over one of the police officers. They call for backup, and what arrives is
wet wipes.
Yeah. What arrives is an ambulance. So Control send out an ambulance.
Right.
The two ambulance drivers are described as being quite standoffish. This police officer who's telling the story doesn't know those two ambulance drivers, which is very unusual because police officers and ambulance drivers, they cover a patch.
Yeah.
They strap this man into a gurney, put him into the back of the ambulance and drive off. The police officer, writes down the registration number of the ambulance, not the reg plate, but the marker,
ID.
the ID of the ambulance, because he has to put it in his report. When he files the report, it's rejected because no such ambulance exists.
Wow.
And then when he tries to correct his report and phones up the ambulance dispatch, they claim they dispatched no ambulances that day to that area, and those two people don't fit any description of any ambulance drivers they have working there. Right. So you end up with...
you're back then to some major conspiracy, aren't you? Because I always think this with Bigfoot stories, whether they're in the US, maybe more makes sense in the US. Why I was drawn to the Yeti in a way, because I can accept that there is so much of that area that is unexplored, you know what I mean? And that maybe something could live, and maybe to a degree in America as well. But I find it hard to believe that there could be some, you know, whatever it is, a cryptid, a werewolf, a Bigfoot type creature, you know, in the UK. I mean, yeah, maybe in the wilds of Scotland you could get away with it, but in the kind of places we're talking about, the Cannock Chases of this world, if it was a normal, natural animal, we would surely know, which either leads you down two paths. Either it doesn't exist, or there is something paranormal, as in ghostly, transdimensional, or UFO related in this whole phenomenon, that it kind of comes and goes. Otherwise, it doesn't make much sense to me how we wouldn't know.
Yeah, I quite agree. It doesn't make any sense. The only other thing that makes any kind of sense is an element of tricksterism in there. And because it comes along so often with those elements of high strangeness, that is it possible that sometimes a trickster manifests a grey and sometimes it manifests a wood ape?
But it's also that, I mean, certainly we've covered a lot of ghost stories, whether they be trickster spirits or poltergeists, you know, apart from, you know, throwing Lego and bits and pieces like that. There are very few that I've come across where somebody is so violently attacked. They're either, it's life-threatening, or it's resulted in a death that's associated with it. It's incredibly rare, right, to come across those stories.
Yeah, it is. It's very rare, yes.
Whereas in a way, maybe a transdimensional being or something from a parallel universe logically makes a little bit more sense, because you're assuming this thing, whatever it is coming, you know, lock, stock and barrel into our world, rather than you know, a spooky event. You know what I mean? It's physically coming here and then physically disappearing. And yeah, sure, if you did cross it. But I guess the argument against that is you never get anything materialising in Piccadilly Circus, do you? Or Times Square, unless it looks like Elmo.
No, you don't. Well, I haven't heard any accounts of that. No, you don't. Which does lend credence to either the window area or a tulpa or a cryptid. Yeah. But the idea of a cover up as well, I don't think is too far fetched. You've just reminded me about you know, the stories that come out of the land between the lakes. Again, other people have told this story, but you can look it up, and I have mentioned it before. So the land between the lakes in America, sort of camping, hunting ground. And there's one very famous account, there's a book written about it, about a guy who claims to have encountered werewolves there and have encountered the aftermath of a werewolf attack. And the park authorities didn't want to know. And then you think about things like the missing 911 cases, the strange disappearances of people in US national parks. Yeah. And the many of them are still unresolved. The body's never found. That seems, again, similar-ish to what we've just heard there in that story. Though there is a body found, the idea that nobody really wants to investigate or talk about it is mysterious.
It's making me think. You know, it's illegal here, but you know, I remember when I went to Canada, you have to buy bear pepper spray in case you come across it. It'd be a good marketing ploy to do cryptid pepper spray, wouldn't it? That'd be a good one to do. But it's another reason why, camping should generally be avoided, I think.
When I was a child, I used to think that surely bears could season their own food. I didn't realise. I just thought it was like for putting on a pepper spray was for spraying on food.
Oh, is that what you thought it was for?
Yeah.
Brilliant. you spray it on yourself to make yourself a little bit more tasty.
Yeah.
I love it, yeah. Oh, and I'll do some salt solution.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And I carry a bucket of sauce.
That'd be brilliant. You go and buy your pepper spray and they kind of go, would you like the upgraded version? I've got some bay leaves. I've got a little bit of thyme here. And half a lemon that you can rub in. Yeah, some olive oil. Perfect.
Well, I think that's probably taken us to the end of the Wood Apes.
It's, really... It's that conspiracy theory bit about it. And I know we hit the bingo button, which is our new button. I'm going to press it again.
Bingo!
Because I think there's two bits I kind of worry about with, or one bit that I worry about with cryptid. Because either you're going down a line where these things are happening and there has to be some conspiracy, transdimensional, tulpa type thing going on. But there's also a bit of me of going, is it an area of the paranormal that everybody just throws the kitchen sink at because it's really hard to justify? And I'm not saying I'm coming down either way on that, but I think I've said before, it's the bit about cryptids that I slightly worry about.
Yeah, and also... in most cases, they are just sightings at a distance that people can be mistaken.
Yeah.
And you can, I've run across a wallaby. I didn't run across it, but I saw a wallaby in the UK. That looks very strange when you're not expecting it.
We've talked about that before, haven't we?
Yeah,
The idea
yeah.
of wallabies maybe being mistaken for werewolf sightings and
Yes,
stuff. But
exactly.
I think you've made the point before. It's, something about the size of those creatures that makes that a little bit difficult.
Yeah, they don't necessarily. They don't look intimidating. They look freaky in the lights of a car at 3 a.m. But not necessarily scary.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is something more to what we currently accept as being the reality around these things. I think there is something more to them being flesh and blood. But what that more is, I don't know. But I'm still very disappointed. We missed by about a month an excellent werewolf encounter at Cannock Chase.
Yeah, and no scat. Imagine that.
No scat.
You could have got some scat. That would have been amazing. Well, great. We are going to be carrying on our conversation on Ben and Peter's Extra Scoop, which is our Patreon exclusive. So if you want a bit more of us and a bit more discussion on this subject and some other stuff, become a Patreon. Less than a cup of coffee a month. We have episodes early. We have Ben and Peter's Extra Scoop as an exclusive podcast episode. Really lovely community there, and lots of chat. So, come and join us there now if you fancy it.
Please do. And I'll be talking about how it's possible that the location of the Holy Grail could be at Shugborough Hall.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's something to come for. So, we'll see you next time on the Quantum Mechanics.
Take care.
Bye.
Are you the Quantum Mechanics?